it's a good point. The fact is that Africa experienced so many political instabilities until quite recently. The coups and military coups and all the ethnic wars and so on. All these could be explained in terms of the kinds of political systems we had and the exclusionary nature of our politics and so on and so forth. So even where people are strategic, where you have governments that have long-term planning perspectives, these were terminated anytime there was a change, political change. If you take Ghana, which is doing well now, this is the first time Ghana has changed government. Ghana has changed government through the ballot box on 3 occasions successfully. Previously, it was always through the gun. And so the question was partly to do with the lack of strategic planning, but it was also to do with political instabilities, which was in most cases not within. So I think you are right. People would have to look at things differently. People have to do some prospective thinking. People have to look deep into the future. Sometimes I feel that Africa appears to be embarking on a journey without a map to an uncertain destination. And we need really to focus and check the roadmaps and so on and so forth. But all these things will be happening within a certain international environment that has its own effect. And we've seen how global capitalism, as a result of these globalities that we are experiencing, topple African regimes one after the other, kill them, subvert, and so on, sometimes using internal reactionary forces and so on. So there are 2 aspects. One is the strategic thinking. The other is the necessity to consolidate our democracies. Because without democratic consolidation, whatever good plans you have will be terminated. So we need to attack it from these 2 angles. And it takes time. It takes time for these things to happen. But I agree with you 100%, the need to look into the future and plan.
More comments and questions?
I mean, leaders who are not interested in integration. Sometimes some countries have leaders who want to protect their sovereignty. They don't want to give them up. When Nkrumah started this Pan-African thing, in Liberia here, Akin Tubman felt that when he was a president, Nkrumah was on his way to the US to go and study. He comes and wants to be the president of Africa when he will be relegated to some region. So we have all these things. But you see, the point is that the worsening conditions at some point is going to force Africans to sit up and react. The European Union has been formed. Asians are doing their own thing. Now you have Trump, who is quite unpredictable. We don't know what he's going to do, but we can conjecture, we can guess that his presidency is going to be one that will marginalize Africa. Now, what is going to happen? What is going to happen in the years to come? So I think the worsening conditions would force leaders to sit up. For those people who are not interested, I've seen some academics at the University of Ghana who say that, well, it's good to have unity. But if you look at the corruption in the various countries, if you have one continental government, then there will be a continent-wide corruption, and therefore things should be left as they are. We need to listen to all these. There are very, very powerful external forces that are also working. France and its relations with the Francophone countries of Africa. France doesn't want to leave because every year about 5% of the GDP is paid by these countries to France. As we speak, it is done. If a particular country refuses to do it, I understand Benin at some point couldn't pay. And France said, well, we will see, which in non-diplomatic terms means the government will fall. I understand it was Nelson Mandela who had to intervene to ask France to allow them time to pay. Why should France be paid? Be paid 5% of the GDP. And because of that, France is not very much interested in all these regional things in Africa. So there are powerful external forces, in addition to the domestic internal forces that are also sometimes not interested in these things. So I think it can come about as a result of regional integration, which will eventually lead to that. There are difficulties. How do you unite or integrate with an economy in which debt to GDP ratio is 90% or 80%? That in a particular year, if they even use everything they produce to pay the debt, they'll be left with only 10%. And Nigeria may not want to go into an alliance with such a state. So everybody has to put their home in order before we can do that. But there's very little anybody at all can do. The point is that the rest of the world is leaving Africa behind. The point is that Europe has come together, whether we like it or not. Britain would have to be given some concessions, and I'm sure they're going to try to do that, because already the exit is costing them a lot. Now, for the first time in several years, the euro is bigger than the pound sterling, which is the direct outcome of that. And some companies are leaving, So you have to talk again with Britain, and then to see. So we need to do this. For the migration, it's a big problem. Last month, we had a month or two before John Mahama was defeated in the elections. He gave the right of abode to a number of Black Americans who came to Ghana. People interpreted that to be citizenship. And then he also signed into a law that all peoples of Africa can just come to Accra and apply for visa on arrival. You don't need to apply for visa anywhere. Which countries are following up? No other country is joining Ghana. And so it's about the commitment, and it's about the way one sees the future. I didn't support Mahama in the last election, but for this, I supported him. And there are many Nigerians in Ghana. But, you see, there is a sense in which I find it difficult to understand our people. The Chinese have come all the way from Shanghai and are doing illegal small-scale mining. The Ghanaians are not worried. But they attack the Nigerians, say they are taking their jobs. What about the Chinese? In Tanzania too, yeah. And so these are the problems. And Nigeria I don't know how it came about, but Nigeria is a heavyweight that is punching like a lightweight. It is almost always, it's a big economy. There are a lot of people. The market is good. When the South Africans started killing them, I understand the Nigerian president said, okay. He called the South African president and said, get ready. MTN is coming back. All your companies here are coming back. Then the South Africans relaxed. So there are more Nigerians in South Africa than there are South Africans in Nigeria. But on balance, the South Africans are benefiting because their companies are working here. We have to use all these things. But with migration, I find it difficult to see how we try to stop, because historically, some of the best people we've known were migrants.